On the map, North Dakota looks like a quiet expanse, wide, still, and far from the noise of big cities. A place where towns are small, the pace is slow, and life moves simply. But behind that simplicity, something unexpected starts to appear. There are towns that suddenly exploded because of oil, then changed too fast to keep up with themselves. Others built oversized identities from a single strange symbol, a giant statue, a geographic claim, or a festival that feels oddly out of place. And some feel unusual simply because they are too quiet, as if time moves slower there than in the outside world. 15 towns, 15 stories, and the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that strange does not always mean dramatic. Sometimes it comes from small details that feel just slightly off. On paper, Williston looks like a success story, a small North Dakota town that suddenly boomed because of the Bakken oil formation. Its population surged in a short time, and median household income once climbed above $80,000, far higher than the state average. Money flowed quickly, but so did the problems. During the peak boom years, crime rates rose sharply, especially property crime and violent incidents. Local law enforcement was stretched thin, something rarely seen in a town this size. The arrival of thousands of out-of-state workers created an unstable community. Many came to work, but not to truly settle. Visually, Williston feels unusual as well. On one side, there are new housing developments, hotels, and modern businesses. On the other hand, you can still find man camps, temporary housing complexes for oil workers that make the town feel unfinished, like it is still in the process of becoming something else. Minot feels like a city with two identities at once. On one side, it is one of the larger cities in North Dakota, but what makes it stand out is a combination of factors that rarely exist together in one place. The city is home to Minot Air Force Base, a major military installation that holds strategic assets. That means behind its calm appearance, there is another layer of life that is far more serious and closed off. Then came 2011, the massive Souris River flood that forced more than 10,000 residents to evacuate. Thousands of homes were damaged, and parts of the city were permanently changed. The impact was not just physical, but psychological, a collective trauma that lingered long after the water receded. Minot today looks stable, but if you look closer, there is a contrast that is hard to ignore. A military town, a disaster recovery city, and a typical Midwestern community, all existing at the same time. Even its name sets it apart. Devil's Lake sounds more like a movie setting than a real town in North Dakota. But what truly makes it unusual is not just the name, but the history behind it. The name comes from a translation of a native term referring to dangerous water or bad spirit, not in a supernatural sense, but because the lake itself is unpredictable and unstable, and that has proven true. Over the past decades, water levels have continued to rise, flooding roads, farmland, and even forcing the relocation of infrastructure. In terms of data, Devil's Lake is a small city with a median household income around $43,000 and relatively moderate crime rates. Nothing extreme. But one event once shook public perception, a brutal murder case that gained national attention, sharply contrasting with the image of a quiet town. In the middle of North Dakota's flat landscape, Valley City feels like a small anomaly that is hard to ignore. Nicknamed the City of Bridges, this town has an unusual number of bridges for a population of around 6,600 people. There is even a tall railroad bridge, the High Line Bridge, rising over the valley and giving the city the silhouette of a miniature industrial town somehow lost in the prairie. Life here is quiet, supported by Valley City State University, which adds a small youthful pulse to the community. But its strangeness lies in the visual contrast and identity. The town follows the contours of the Cheyenne River Valley rather than the flat pattern typical of North Dakota. As a result, the landscape feels different, more layered, more structured. Many of the bridges are functional, but their sheer number creates an almost symbolic impression. Jamestown feels like a town obsessed with one thing: bison. In the vast silence of North Dakota, this city chose a very specific identity and made it literally huge. Here stands the world's largest buffalo, a giant bison statue more than 7 meters tall that immediately catches the attention of anyone passing through. And this it is not just a gimmick. Nearby, there is a live bison herd, including a rare white bison. In numbers, Jamestown is fairly stable for a small city, a population of around 15,800, median household income around $56,000, and a relatively moderate crime rate. There is a small college and economic activity continues. Everything looks normal, but that is exactly what makes it feel strange. The city seems to have built a major identity around something extremely specific, almost excessive. From the giant statue to the city's branding, everything revolves around the same symbol. Bottineau introduces itself in a rather unusual way. At the entrance to town, you are greeted by a giant statue of Paul Bunyan, complete with his blue ox, Babe. For a small town in northern North Dakota, that is enough to make you wonder, why did a giant lumberjack legend suddenly become the main face of this place? In terms of branding, Bottineau calls itself the Four Seasons Playground. And there is a reason for that. Close to the Turtle Mountains and recreation areas like Lake Medora, the town lives off year-round outdoor activity. But its strangeness comes from a mix of identities that feels oddly random. A quiet farming town, but its mascot is a forest myth. A small silent town, but it promotes itself like a major travel destination. All of it is true, but when combined, it feels slightly off. Rugby may be one of the most confident small towns in North Dakota. With a population of only around 2,400 people, the town claims to be the geographic center of North America. It is a bold claim, and they have made it physical, complete with a stone monument that has become a must-stop photo spot. Life here is simple: farming, local businesses, and the calm rhythm of the Midwest. Nothing feels especially flashy, except its identity. And that is where the strangeness begins. The claim of being the center of the continent has long been debated by experts, because geographic calculations can differ depending on the method used. But Rugby continues to hold that title with full confidence, as if the controversy does not matter. In North Dakota's quiet landscape, Garrison feels like an ordinary small town. Its population is only around 1,500 people. The median household income is around $71,000, and crime is relatively low. But at the end of every year, something truly unusual happens. Garrison transforms into a Victorian English village through an event known as the Dickens Village Festival. Main Street fills with classic decorations, warm lights, and people dressed in 19th century clothing inspired by the works of Charles Dickens. In the middle of rural, modern North Dakota, an old London atmosphere suddenly appears. And that is where the strangeness lies. Not because the festival is small. In fact, it is one of the town's biggest events, but because the concept feels so out of place. After a series of towns with bold claims and striking symbols, Beulah feels more down to earth. This small North Dakota town has a population of around 3,000 people, with a median household income near $76,000, quite high for a rural area, thanks to its closeness to the energy industry. But like many other small towns in North Dakota, Beulah has its own way of standing out: the Walleye Festival. It is a celebration centered on the walleye fish, complete with fishing contests, parades, and community events that are fairly large for a town this small. At first, it sounds ordinary, but when you think about it, there is something unique about a quiet small town suddenly turning into a lively gathering place because of one type of fish. If you drive through this part of North Dakota, there is one thing almost impossible to miss: a giant cow standing on a hill, staring out over the wide plains around it. Her name is Salem Sue, a Holstein cow statue more than 11 meters tall and one of the strangest yet most iconic landmarks in North Dakota. New Salem itself is small, with a population of around 1,100 people, a median household income near $69,000, and a low crime rate. Life here is quiet, agriculture-based, and not especially flashy, until you see Sue. What makes the statue interesting is that it is not just decoration. Built as a symbol of the local dairy industry, Salem Sue has become the town's identity, something far bigger than the town's reality, literally. Medora feels like a town that does not fully belong to North Dakota. In the middle of the wild Badlands, this small town has an origin story that sounds almost unbelievable. It was founded by a French nobleman, the Marquis de Moray, in the late 19th century. His ambition? To build a modern meat-packing center in the Wild West. It was visionary, but also too far ahead of its time. The project eventually failed, but its traces remain, and they shape Medora's identity today. With a very small population, fewer than 200 people, a median household income that fluctuates because of tourism, and a very low crime rate, Medora does not survive through major industry, but through stories. Today, the town serves as a gateway to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, complete with outdoor shows and a cowboy atmosphere that feels like a living stage. Its strangeness comes from that contrast: a tiny western town with European aristocratic roots. After towns with giant icons and unusual stories, Linton feels like a slow pause, almost silent. Located in southern North Dakota, The town has around 1,000 residents, with a median household income in the range of $47,000. Safe, quiet, but also extremely empty. Here, there are no giant statues, no bold claims, and no festival that truly steals attention. Life moves slowly, shaped by farming and a small community where people know one another. From the outside, Linton can feel like a town that gets passed over. There is no strong reason to stop unless you are specifically going there. And that is exactly where its strangeness lies. Not in anything dramatic, but in the absence itself. The name feels heavy, as if it carries the shadow of Napoleon Bonaparte. But once you arrive in this small North Dakota town, you find the exact opposite. Quiet streets, a slow rhythm of life, and a community that barely seems to change from year to year. Stable, safe, and very simple. There are no massive monuments, no ambitious claims, just rural life moving along as it is. And that is where the irony becomes clearest. The name Napoleon is tied to ambition, expansion, and grand history. But this town does not try to become anything other than itself. There is no attempt to live up to the name, as if that grand label was just an accident left behind. The result is a subtle but powerful contrast. A small town with a big name, but no desire to prove it. The name sounds like something from a science fiction movie. Portal, as if it were a gateway to another dimension. But in North Dakota, Portal is very real and very simple. The town is tiny, with a population of fewer than 200 people. Its median household income is around $115,000. At first glance, nothing looks extraordinary. Quiet streets, simple buildings, and a calm pace of life. But one thing makes it different. Portal sits directly on the Canadian border. This is where goods and people cross every day. So even though the town is small, its function is actually important, as a real gateway between two countries. And that is where its strangeness feels perfectly fitting. A name that sounds like fantasy turns out to describe its role exactly. Not a portal to another world, but a portal between nations. And finally, we arrive at a town with a name that sounds like a sound effect. Zap. Short, strange, and almost unserious. Like it should not be the real name of a place in North Dakota. But this is exactly where the weirdest ending belongs. Today, the place is quiet, almost unremarkable. But in 1969, everything changed. Thousands of college students from different places came here for a spontaneous event known as the Zap In. At first, it sounded like a free-spirited festival. Music, freedom, and social experimentation. But with no preparation, the tiny town was overwhelmed. The situation quickly turned chaotic. Property damage, clashes, and a local community that felt their town had been taken over overnight. Since then, the name Zap has never sounded ordinary again.